Are you planning your Halloween costumes yet? Somebody's been following for a minute. What is up, guys? Welcome back. I don't even know how to articulate how I feel. I really thought that everything going on right now, the crisis in Afghanistan, was just going to make me finally go dead inside. Just shut down for my own protection. But apparently it has just plumbed new depths in my ability to feel sadness and helplessness. So on that fantastic note, I decided to do a fundraiser, and I was unfamiliar with how to do a fundraiser on YouTube. Apparently I can apply it to any video, like ones that are already made. So in hindsight, did I need to make a new video in order to do this? Probably not. But I also selfishly need a distraction. I need to just stay busy. So I'm gonna do a full face of my favorite stuff right now. And I also, to further distract myself, asked you guys for questions so that I can talk about something besides how busy and churning my brain is right now. And honestly, I feel like we all probably feel that way to some extent. There is something so unignorable about 20 years and the irony of it just getting wiped away. So I am setting this up as a fundraiser for basically the UN humanitarian organization from the United States. And I did a lot of hunting around on reputable news sources and stuff to find a good nonprofit to donate to, because there are a lot of opportunist type organizations that set up in these sorts of circumstances to take advantage of the situation and, just pocket the money. Also, I wanted to make sure that the money, even if it is a reputable organization, that the money, I can see a trail of where it's going. The main thing that, concerns me, obviously, after we've seen all of these really traumatizing images on the news and stuff, is women, children, families. They showed a paper trail and they showed a graph and everything and said, what your money is actually going to, and it's basic necessities in these camps where the refugees have been displaced. And, that is the least I feel like I can do. There are also, obviously, plenty of other organizations. Women for Women International was one that I saw that does benefit women across the board, kind of in those underserved areas of the world, not just Afghanistan. And also, I think it's important to keep in mind the way that our US veterans are probably, and families of veterans must be feeling right now, because some of them made the ultimate sacrifice and regardless made enormous mental and physical and time sacrifices. And, people have talked about the rates of things that will get me demonetized, the likelihood of that increasing right now. So I will try and find, veteran mental health organizations and things like that, because we all know that the VA is a little bit, has some gaps in coverage. So if that's more your speed as to where you'd want your dollar to go, I'll try and find some links and put those in the description. And anybody, I'm leaving this open, I think, so anybody who has a channel can also be part of this fundraiser, and I will basically just I'm leaving the timeline open-ended. And if you don't want to donate, that's totally fine. If there are other organizations that you know of that are worthy of this kind of effort, feel free to leave those in the comments, but please don't make me turn the comments off. This is a humanitarian crisis. This is not a political viewpoint that I'm coming from right now. I am coming from the standpoint of the world benefits from keeping good people alive. Full stop. And that's my only mission here. So yeah, please don't make me turn the comments off, because I think that it could be really positive to have people contributing places to donate in the comments. I've never had to turn comments off before. Don't make this be the first time. All right, let's go ahead and jump in, guys. How do you, let me read this verbatim. How do you get motivated to move forward when it feels like nothing matters? All right. Thought we were going to get off topic, but let's go ahead and stay on topic, shall we? So I'm going to be starting with the Fenty body sauce because ever since Kate the Great, I have a lot of Kates in my life, got me hooked on this. Like, I can't stop using it. So, and someone else requested a full face of Chantecaille. I'm going to be using some Chantecaille today, just the foundation. Just my feel-good face of makeup that I've been doing lately, as I have been breaking out quite a bit. So I think that that's actually, it's not just like topical to what's happening right now. It's like anybody could be going through anything in their life that would make it hard for them to kind of like pick up in the morning and get motivated. I don't think that there is any shame in unproductivity when what you really need is to rest. I think that a lot of times we think that feeling bad is an unproductive emotion. You know, what did I say I was gonna do? Chantecaille. That sitting there kind of wallowing, as it were, is unproductive, and it's just kind of driving you deeper and deeper into like something that you should be working to pull yourself back out of instead of pushing yourself deeper into it. I happen to disagree because, and I was kind of talking to my husband about this, I think that, you know, a lot of times men suffer from being socially conditioned to be stoic and, you know, push their emotions down. And that can be seen not just as an ailment to men, but also a masculine, like a manifestation of the masculine when we talk about strength. When we're talking about like, I need to be strong through this situation, that means don't let someone see you be vulnerable. And I think that vulnerability makes people feel seen. Vulnerability doesn't necessarily mean being helpless. It means being honest, and it means processing your emotions in real time and really like allowing yourself to honor them, because they're not going away. You know, they're not going, like sadness and those pent up feelings of helplessness are not going to go away unless you process them. And I feel like the problem, and you know, because that sounds like such like a simple solution, right? It's like, oh, just process them, it'll be fine. It's almost like spiritually bypassing something. The problem is that we have been in a cycle recently where we feel like we work through these things and then something comes and opens a very, very similar wound that's like very either right on top of it or adjacent to it. And it makes us feel like we didn't do any of that work. It makes us feel like all of that was for nothing. And I mean, this unintentionally incredibly on the nose, but we can't like blame ourselves for not being able to predict the future and not being able to like build in the boundaries that we feel like could have protected us from hurting all over again. And I think that a lot of times we think that, you know, if pain is something that we're prepared for, it's like why we try and control all of our outcomes a lot of times. Control being this illusion of protecting ourselves, right? Saying like, well, if I can see it coming, then I can make sure that I'm ready. And I think that a lot of times we tend to kick ourselves because we weren't prepared, you know, prepared enough for something to hurt. But the fact is that pain hurts. You can be as like mentally prepared for childbirth as you want to be. I personally didn't mentally prepare for childbirth at all because I knew it was something that I had no control over. And so there is a certain freedom in relinquishing yourself from that level of pressure where it's compounded by a certain amount of shame that like you didn't see it coming and therefore you didn't build in the infrastructure in your own mind and in your own heart to like protect you from it. Because just because it's a really bad, big, scary feeling doesn't mean it's necessarily something that like you should have known better and that you should have protected yourself from. Like pain is just kind of part of it. I think that there is something important about a collective pain and a collective trauma like this, although it's infuriating. That's like an optimistic way for me to look at it, is like sitting here being like, you know, I just hope that history remembers this and that our generation can remember how traumatic this is and we don't repeat it. But the problem is that history does forget these kinds of things because it's sort of a generational thing. And it's hilarious when you listen to some of these podcasts like I listen to, like You're Wrong About, where they actually dig up the history and you find that it's not history from 100 years ago, it's history from 30 years ago that just happens to be just behind your shade of relevant consciousness because of your age. And that we are literally just repeating things. And that can just get so infuriating. And I guess I've just been trying to like feel those feelings. And also, even like in this video right now, I'm trying to just kind of allow space to share it. And to like, sometimes all you need is for a bunch of people to be like, yeah, this sucks. This sucks. Like, this is pure suffering and it sucks. And like that can be on a very micro scale in your life where you don't need someone to like try to put it in a little container so that they can solve it on their own terms. You need to let it be big and metastasize and like be its full, ugly, painful, just surrender to the grossness for a second, because otherwise you're afraid of it. And again, plumbing new depths of like my empathy and my sadness for all of this. But the thing that I've kind of learned through muscle memory recently, I guess, in the last couple of years is that like there are things that we can do, and a lot of times it's money that speaks. And that's just my own, desperate attempt to feel like I'm not like completely helpless, I guess. But anyway, to very, very circuitously answer your question, the way that I get motivated is understanding that we as individuals do have power and that we do matter. Like we have to. And letting the feelings live and exist as they are, but also letting that process be a means of growth and learning, exposure, and empathy, That's all I got on that, man. New follower here. Could you please cover your backstory of how you got here? Yeah, absolutely. Once I find my bronzer. Patrick! Oh, Patrick? Patrick! Hello? There you are! Over here hanging out with my Pat McGrath blushes. Birds of a feather. How did I get here? Let's chat about that. So, I have a degree in art from Florida State University. Very much enjoyed it. I did art because it was the hardest thing I could think of to do because I have always had personal doubts about my own creativity. And I still do! I still try and paint and I still hate everything that I make, but that is just my own private exercise, I guess. I like doing makeup. But I also was a hairstylist, hairdresser, cut, color, barber, all that, from age 17 to age 25. So I have an innate curiosity about aesthetics, but also I have a lot of training in color theory. But then graduating from college in 2009, with all of my hopes and dreams crushed by the financial collapse, just doing the millennial thing, I decided I needed to work towards something else that was going to be a reliable means of income past being a hairstylist, because you kind of, unless you become famous or start your own salon or really want to stay put for a very, very long time and, build up a clientele, and just keep charging higher and higher prices, you're just not going to make money hand over fist doing hair. And my art degree wasn't promising any kind of salaried position, was it? And so I decided that I would get into marketing. And when I did, I said, okay, well, I kind of have to start at the bottom. This was back when unpaid internships were legal. And all of the people that I had gone to school with, had parents who could support them, or they had taken out a lot of student loans. I had done neither. And I decided I was going to try and get an internship at like age 23 or something. And I was living in Kansas City at the time, and I got an internship with Yelp. And they actually started paying me. I think it was minimum wage at it was unpaid at first, I think, and then she started paying me pretty quickly. Like, she's like, I'm just gonna hire you on as my assistant. And so I became the assistant to the community manager in Kansas City, and just, you know, learned the ropes of grassroots marketing and stuff like that, but it also just gave me a really good, recognizable brand on my resume. There's a lot to be said for that. Then I moved to Austin. I was fortunate enough to get a job at an advertising agency that really hired on aptitude, because I had absolutely no experience in paid search, but they tested you in and they were just like, hey, do you have this skill set? We'll train you. And it was amazing. And so that was where I met my husband, side note. Worked there for 4 years, and it was a really, really cool like environment, you know, aside from the innate misogyny, nepotism, that kind of thing that you end up with in the tech world, regardless of where you work. I did find it to be a really, really great experience for learning. Can you get off my face? Thank you. And I did. I learned kind of like the most white glove, high standards approach to paid search. You know, there were no corners cut. I got just like the full education, top to bottom, in this very, very specific niche. Then I, you know, went and worked a few other places over the years, but I also started my channel like in any honesty and any like, you know, intention of like making it my career in 2018. And I had been on YouTube since 2014, just kind of like bopping around trying to find my niche, and, you know, nothing was sticking. And I was like, you know what? I'm following the Tati model. I'm just gonna do it. And I just started filming 5 videos a week. 3 on Saturdays, 2 on Sundays, waking up at 5:30 or 6 a.m. every single weekday, and editing and uploading each video before I went to work. Working 7 days a week. I did that for about a year, I want to say, before I just kind of burned out. I didn't have a career on YouTube by the end of 2018, and it killed me. I was like so upset that I was basically just like burning myself out, and I felt like I hadn't gotten anywhere. I caught some traction when I decided I was going to delve into clean beauty, which ended up being a double-edged sword, because, you know, clean beauty has since been linked with some really, really nefarious actors. It's kind of become this like wellness pathway to radicalization and things like that, and it's just like not something that I want to be a part of. And I also realized through all of that that, like, you know, the most of the clean beauty on the market is either marketed as such and isn't really that different from the rest of it, or it's really not it doesn't perform well. There are a few exceptions. Like, I have no idea how Chantecaille does it. They don't claim to be a clean beauty brand, but I don't think they put silicones in anything, and like their stuff is incredible and I can't explain it. But I did learn a lot about the industry. I learned a lot about myself. I learned a lot about ingredients and, you know, generally like what makes things perform the way that I like them to perform, that kind of thing. And then I just kind of decided to relax a little bit. So in 2020, just wanted to like re-immerse myself in things that I actually enjoyed again. I was tired of spending my money on products that didn't work. And then 2020, yeah, I was pregnant. I had a baby. I took 3 weeks off because I'm a lunatic, and I got right back into it, got on some antidepressants, and like, you know, just generally was not listening to the call of my body in any way. We just used this, and that kind of makes me want to not use this. Maybe we'll just do something completely different with it. We'll go like smoky eye or something. This is the Wayne Goss Pearl palette. Like, if I'm being totally honest, this is what I'm reaching for all the time right now. So 2021, you know, we decided to move here. I finally got like my routine together with my kiddo and everything. And I had basically been weaning myself off, so to speak, of this marketing position that I had taken at the beginning of 2019. It was full-time. And then I went on my honeymoon, had like a major, you know, mental crisis where I was like, I can't go back there. It's so terrible. It's not where I want to be, but I'm not making enough money. So I remember I went to them because this is kind of my style of, you know, doing life. And I was like, hey, I can get all of this work done that is assigned to me, still cater to all of these clients, 100% from home. This was in 2019. Yeah, 100% from home and in 30 hours a week. And you can just pay me hourly and I'll go on my husband's health insurance. And they were like, okay. Because I was the only paid search person that they had at the time. And they kind of had to say okay. And they believed in me. They believed in the quality of my work. And so May of 2019, I was able to go part-time, and then I was able to take even fewer hours. I cut down to about 15 hours a week in like, I don't know, September of 2019. And then I was just basically working 15 to 20 hours a week doing that all the way through 2020. And with the exception of my, you know, 3 weeks of maternity leave. And then I was able to finally officially leave the only client that I had beginning of this year, right? Kind of when we moved, right at the end of January. So now I'm a full-time YouTuber. I was a little bit scared of what it was gonna be like, but I love it. The only thing that's hard sometimes is, you know, moments like these where I don't know, I always think that since I am so self-motivated and I'm so good at being self-employed, and because I'm really, really bad at being employed and like having a boss, that I'm never going to have moments of self-doubt and moments of lack of motivation. I'm always going to be just kind of immune to it. And then when they do happen, I feel so crappy about myself. I'm like, oh my gosh, Kackie, you have everything in the world. You have everything that you wanted and you're so ungrateful. And it's like, I just kind of beat myself up because I'm like, you know, you worked so hard for this, and yet here you are sitting here waffling between like, oh, what am I gonna do with all this time and all these resources? And the answer is just, you know, give yourself space and time and understand that nobody's perfect and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And, you know, just try and be as grateful as I can. But I definitely have a lot of gratitude right now because even in the darkest time right now, I can use this platform and try and do something. Just not feel entirely helpless, you know? So we're going smoky on the eye here. I went in with the brown basically, and now I'm going in with the white and blending with the kind of pink color. And we're just going for a really moody, rosy brown smoky eye. Someone also asked, what do you miss most about your scene days? Man, I miss a lot about my scene days. I'll be totally honest. There's something so awesome about being surrounded by like-minded people who are kind of expressing themselves all the time and just constantly having this feed of emotional vulnerability from your peers and also validation to the same effect and creative inspiration, like aesthetic creative inspiration. And I think that like ever since then, I've been like, I think I went a while thinking I didn't need it. And ever since then, I've just been like seeking it out because like I was talking about, a lot of times, you know, men are kind of taught to be stoic, except when you're talking about a lot of times like a quote unquote emo kid. There's a reason that we get cast to the sidelines, and a lot of times the guys who get cast to the sidelines in that subgenre of, you know, human beings, it's because they don't kind of fit into the stoic stereotype. And I think that there was something to be said for wanting to hang out with dudes who wrote poetry and took pictures, and like, you know, our art wasn't good, but at least we were trying. Now granted, you know, I definitely like wanted to marry outside of that because I was very tired of the traveling musician lifestyle. My ex was in a band and he was gone literally all the time, and it made me crazy. So I mean, there are a lot of kind of perks and pitfalls, but there's something so much to be said for like finding your subgenre of misfits, whatever they may be. And I really feel like I found my subgenre of misfits. And a lot of times I do get in these really, really rebellious attention-seeking moods where I'm just like, don't you understand that I'm different? You know, when I'm 34 freaking years old, and I still need people to acknowledge it. I still need people to be like, yeah, she's different. Like, I look back and I did not really like the human being that I was. I was really angry, and I thought that I had a lot of right to be really angry, and like I realize now it's just like, you know, your body's just flooded with hormones. And you're also getting a lot of positive reinforcement from a lot of other like angry kids, and there's something to be said for that too. But I still like really crave that sense of community. Like when I moved to Austin, I was like, I'm moving here because of the music scene. The music scene there is terrible. It's a bunch of people who do not give a crap about each other. Now, I don't know about like the punk scene. It might be like a little bit closer knit or whatever, but like when I was going to see the bands I really wanted to go see, there's nothing close knit happening there. It was just a bunch of people kind of competing to get to the front. It was a bunch of like people who didn't understand what the etiquette was to be at a show. And there was absolutely no like intermingling. I was getting into like scuffles with people because I was like, would you quit leaning on me? Like, stop being crazy, you know? But it's like this weird, it's just a terrible music culture in Austin. So that was very disappointing for me. Someone else asked, how do you make friends as an adult working from home? Internet. This is definitely like my personal means of shouting into the void, because if I didn't, I would just like be this recluse, or I would be doing really, really embarrassing things for attention, you know, like just being a class clown as an adult, and that would be a really bad look. This is my means of kind of channeling that. And, you know, I'm lucky to have found some amazingly, again, like-minded people. I can't see diddly. Here on the platform, and that's happened only really recently. All of this happened without me really knowing very many people on here at all. Like, I knew Leanne, and it was because we both lived in Texas, and I don't know, I was a huge like fangirl at the beginning of my channel, and I still, you know, obviously love her channel, and she's still a friend. I still didn't feel like I belonged to any particular genre or anything like that for a very, very long time, and I was just so like pleased when I found, or I guess when Amanda Z like found me, and she was just like, hey, you know, these are my people. And it was like her and Ted and Shelby and Kate and, oh my gosh, so many people. Rainier, Kyla, Hannah, just like all of these incredible people. And just people that are all over both like YouTube and Instagram who have like similar tastes, similar kind of like, you know, like-minded artist types, I guess you would say. And it just kind of broke down a lot of walls for me about like the whole influencer space, where, I mean, honestly, I feel like they debunked the whole like, oh, influencers are snobs and they can only talk to people who are like of their same follower size and stuff like that. I'm like, you know, I think we all realize that there's room for everybody. And I think that there also used to be this feeling that YouTube was gonna go away at some point, and everybody was like, you need to diversify, and you need to, you know, not count on the fact that you know, being an influencer is a real career and all this stuff. And then like, you know, I'm talking to Mike's cousin about their kids, and she's like, yeah, you know, my kid like wants to be an influencer when she grows up. And I'm like, this is sticking. Like, this is a thing that is sticking, and it's not going anywhere for a while. And even if YouTube were to die, which Google, you know, isn't gonna do that, something else would absorb that space pretty quickly. So that's how I make friends. But I feel like there has to be something as an adult where you find a common vulnerability. Like for my mom kind of created community in my hometown. You know, she owned a yarn store for a long time, and that's how she met a lot of her friends, was just because, you know, she created this meeting place for people. And it's like, you know, shared interest really goes a long way. And as you get older, you realize that like age isn't that big of a deal. Like one of my mom's best friends is like my age, you know, and I basically like treat her kind of like a sister. I think that there's kind of something really beautiful and wonderful about relinquishing our judgment and letting ourselves be kind of ageless in that sense. Do we need glitter? I mean, it's a smoky eye, but still. I feel like this day needs glitter, you know? Let's see if I can get this on a brush. My nose is running and I have no tissues. Oh yeah, Lane Gauze. Yep. Just gonna do a little bit of that to catch the light. Yeah, the reason also that I'm doing such like a straight down the middle of my comfort zone kind of face of makeup is it makes it easier for me to talk while I'm doing it. Are you planning your Halloween costumes yet? Somebody's been following for a minute. So last year, my husband, while we were in the hospital, I had Simon and we were stuck in the hospital for like another 4 days, ordered us a family Halloween costume where my dog was Scooby-Doo, Mike was Fred, I was Daphne, and our little BB was Scrappy-Doo. And it was devastatingly adorable and just so much fun and such a moment of levity when we were in just like an insanely stressful time. Halloween was literally a month after he was born. Yeah. A 1 month old that's just a lot. It's a teeny tiny thing that you're stressed out about all the time and underslept and still bleeding. So, you know, for a while. But, all that to say, Simon was falling a lot. He still is, but we bought him a helmet. But he was kind of just falling a lot. For a while when he was figuring out how to stand up, and now he's figuring out how to like stand up on his own without holding on to something. They call what he's doing right now cruising, and then he will actually be able to stand up without holding on to anything, and then he will eventually be able to walk. But he was getting all of these like bumps and bruises all over his head, and he also fell at daycare and cut his eyebrow, and we had to go to the emergency room. My husband had to take him to the emergency room. And he had to get like his eyebrow glued together. Sorry, my camera died and I just looked in my viewfinder and I'm not sure that I even like how this makeup is looking right now because I didn't take the body sauce all the way down. It's fine, it's just makeup. But anyway, my mother-in-law started referring to him as Rocky, as in Rocky Balboa. We call my dog Moose. You see where this is going. We have Bruce, Goose, and Moose. Bruce, obviously our cat Bruce. Goose is Mother Goose because Per Monster loves to like tuck all of his little limbs underneath himself and like, you know, colonize the laundry, and he's just Mother Goose on top of the laundry. And then we have Moose, which is our, you know, gigantic dog Ollie, who looks like a moose. And Mike was like, Rocky, sure, Rocky Balboa, but like what about Rocky Raccoon? And I was like, oh my God. And he was like, so Ollie is Bullwinkle. Simon is Rocky Raccoon because he has 4 teeth right now. So it's just like these little chipmunk teeth. And then Mike was like, and then you and me can be Boris and Natasha. And I was like, done. So Mike's gonna probably shave some really embarrassing facial hair, get himself, you know, like a full black with the fedora and everything. And I'm gonna do some kind of little like purple strapless dress and curl my hair all up and whatever. And we're going to be Boris and Natasha, and they're going to be Rocky and Bullwinkle. So. Sorry, husband, for spoiling that one, but I can't help myself. It's just such a great idea, and all of the kudos go to him. He's very, very good at those kinds of things, of just kind of like dreaming them up. So I'm adding a little more contour here, just so that everything's kind of blended a little bit better. I'm like not coping well with the amount of hair that I've lost. Like this is so obnoxious. And then, you know, I was lamenting, right? This zit, this massive zit right here. And then I realized like, that's not the first time that zit has happened recently. Like it's definitely a recurring zit that has it in for me. So that's cool. Maybe I'll just finally get justice with it this time. Let's do one more question while I do my lips here. Not a question, but not all for nothing. They had 20 years of peace, but sadly we failed. Yeah, you're right. Oh my gosh. Okay, actually there's some really good ones. I might just do a little like lightning round. Okay, worst haircut you ever had or gave. So like I said, I was a hairstylist for 8 years. This is my Kackie lip liner. Worst haircut I ever had was right when I went into the 6th grade. My hairdresser decided to give me the Rachel because I knew how to style that. And it was also right when puberty hit and my hair decided it was gonna be curly. And I lived in Florida where it was 100% humidity all the time. I looked like a freaking nightmare, like a legendary nightmare. Yeah, this is the Pat McGrath Dare to Bear Lust Gloss. Oh God, they smell so good. The worst haircut that I ever gave, my boyfriend in college, it was back when like it was cool for the scene kids, the DIY kids, to have like intentionally bad hair. Like I bleached his hair and dyed it back brown just so that it would be really like gnarly and gross. And so they would actually, like, he and his twin brother would like handicap me basically. Sounds weird, but like, you know, they would like give me kitchen scissors and a brush instead of like scissors and a comb, and they'd be like, all right, cut my hair. And I'm like, okie dokie. And they'd end up with something tragic, and it was exactly what they wanted. Like, we've been rewatching Ace of Cakes because this is who I am. And Mike's like, what happened to that guy's hair? And I'm like, you have to remember, like, this was a time period where that was like, that was what you did, man. There was just certain people who wanted to look like they got caught in a wood chipper. So those are some of the worst. And then also one time I cut my friend Brandy's ear, and I will never ever forget that feeling. It makes my stomach fall out from under me every single time that I think about it. Every time I think about that sensation and that moment. She was so cool about it. I'll never forget that. I was like, it wouldn't stop bleeding. I was so embarrassed. And she was so unbelievably cool about it. And I was like, okay, like, you're an angel, because I was devastated. This is just the hairstyle forever for the moment, just because, like, until this hair grows back. I don't know. My friend Jordan is supposed to be like coming to this part of the country at some point, and she does the most unbelievable kind of like shag haircuts. I'm like, I have to admit, I'm tempted. I do have to admit that. And her boyfriend's a tattoo artist. I'm like, come on over, guys. Does Mike ever watch your videos? No. No, he like cringes out. He can't. As a self-owned business, how did you start planning for retirement savings, etc.? I'm on Ellevest, and then also I have like an IRA and stuff like that. You can do those kinds of things outside of a job. But I mean, you know, you just have to make it automatic the same way that you would with like any paycheck. This is a good one to close with. What are some of the things you are most grateful for, and how did you find them? I try and practice gratitude every single day, as much as that sounds like a trope. You know what I'm gonna do? Hold please. So I talked about this in my declutter, and the reason that I keep this around is for emergencies. This is the Lily Lolo Mineral Concealer, and it is a powder concealer, and it is very comparable, I think, to the MAC Press Powder in that it will cover anything. So let's go ahead and do that. Things that I am grateful for. I am grateful for having found a functional relationship, even though I would have had absolutely every right and every reason in the world to have stayed wounded by my problematic upbringing and chosen, you know, to constantly try and solve people in relationships instead of seeking stability. But I have sought stability, and I have found stability. It doesn't mean that everything's easy and that marriage doesn't work, because it is. It's so much work. But I'm very, very grateful to have someone who is always on board with me and is a great father, and wants so many of the same things that I do and gets excited about the same things that I do. We took a drive to Pennsylvania over the weekend. There's this little town, there's Lambertville, that's on the New Jersey side, and then you cross over this footbridge. I mean, I guess it's also, a car bridge, but regardless, we walked across the bridge with the dog and the baby, and we went to New Hope, which is the Pennsylvania side. Oh my God, it's the cutest place I've ever been. It's so cute. And Mike and I have, you know, traveled a few places in the world together. We've been to, you know, France, Italy, Spain, the Netherlands, and we have really retained, I think, a lot of the same kind of like loves and feelings and aesthetics and stuff that like make us feel really inspired. And as we're like walking through New Hope, you know, Mike's like, should we just sell our house and move here? And I was like, can we? And he's like, no, it's too expensive. But we're like, maybe when we retire or just get some kind of crazy windfall or something. But like, it was just this moment where we're both looking around and he just like blurts out what we're both thinking. We're like, this place is amazing, you know? And so that's something that I'm so grateful for. I'm also grateful for having given birth to the world's most perfect human. It's a big job, but somebody's got to do it. And honestly, there's far more responsibility in his hands being the most perfect human in the world. But I think he's up to the task. He is the cutest thing I've ever seen in my life. So really grateful for that. Grateful for the fact that we both have really, I mean, all things considered, functional families. There are plenty of people I know who have a lot of the things that I always thought that I didn't have growing up, and they don't have things like a parent that they can fall back on. I have an amazing mother, the kind of mother that like my friends want to steal. And I'm like, I can share. She's just the best mom in the world. And then my husband also kind of has one of those best moms in the world type moms, you know? And his dad is also like a really great grandpa kind of guy, you know? And these are all things that I know, you know, somebody probably would think that like a white girl like me takes for granted, but it's not granted at all. I have had some really, really like not cool stuff happen to me growing up. And I don't think that I take a really stable family unit for granted for any moment in my life at all. And there's also, yeah, there's a lot to be said for the fact that, you know, sure, everybody comes with kind of variable sense of privilege, and I've been made aware of a lot of my privilege, you know, in recent years, but also I'm so grateful for the opportunities that I have had because, you know, I'm surrounded by all this beauty and so much, I mean, it's literally the manifestation of everything that we wanted, and I have no idea how that came to fruition. It's just the thing that I always say is like, you can feel when the universe has like put the wind at your back, because we were trying to move to North Carolina for so long, and nothing was working. I mean, it was like literally the universe being like, stop it. And then the morning I mentioned, you know, I'd like to move back home to New Jersey, like, you know, his home, this all happened within hours. Buying this house happened within hours. So I don't know. You know, people are asked, they're just like, how did you end up with all of this abundance? And I'm like, luck. We did an okay job playing a really great hand. But I also think that it really also comes from the fact that we both look around all the time and never take anything for granted. We are so grateful. And I think that there's something to being a millennial where you have had a millennial in America, regardless of your social class, you have had scarcity drilled into your brain from conscious moment zero. And there's so much like about our house where we look around, and I mean, I think that that's a lot of the thing that people see when they see like my vlogs and stuff like that, is they're like, you have all these extras, right? And they are extras that were conceived of by a generation older than us. That we look around and I'm like, Mike's like, I feel guilty having all this stuff because I never would have thought to do it myself. And I said, okay, but it's not even that we wouldn't have thought to do it, it's that we wouldn't have put the money towards doing it even if we had the money, because we have been taught that spending money on things that aren't useful is completely forbidden. And regardless of how like stable you think you are financially, it never feels like it's enough, because not because we think that, you know, we should be billionaires or something like that. It's because we've had the rug yanked out from under us so many times in our lives, either like figuratively, financially, psychologically, what have you, that and also our parents kind of infused us with a lot of the same, you know, trying to kind of like overcompensate and give us these really strong money values that we have been completely as Michael Hobbs would say, pickled in a scarcity mindset. And the only way to remedy that and not feel just like an overwhelming sense of guilt when I do have beautiful things around me all the time is to just be as absolutely like renewed in my gratitude as I possibly can every single day. And I'm grateful for you guys. I'm so grateful for you guys. If it wasn't for you guys, I mean, I remember the times when I used to be like, I wish that if I put a prompt out for a Q&A, people would actually reply. And it's like, I'm never not grateful for that when people submit things. I'm like, me? You replied to my prompt, you know? So I appreciate you guys for that and just for being genuinely curious about what I have rattling around in my brain. And I'm grateful to you guys for accepting me and all of my imperfections. I try to just hammer a cork into one of the leaks in my boat right now, you know? Bailing it out with a thimble, that's how I feel. But yeah, thank you guys for being a part of whatever it is that we're doing today. I sincerely love you guys. I really, really genuinely appreciate this community for, again, just giving me this place to gather people, to have us all share feelings, good, bad, otherwise, that makes it feel less lonely, you know? Because that's all I can really do right now. So donate if you want, leave other organizations for donation, the names of them. I have links blocked, so if you try and put a URL in there, it's going to block you're not going to see your comment. So just the name of the organization, and I will basically turn them into links in the description, you know, as I vet them. So please do that. Thank you guys for watching. If you found this valuable, give it a thumbs up. If you want to keep hanging out with me on this channel, hit the button down below and subscribe. I would love if you guys did. Thank you so much for watching, for hanging out with me today as always. I love you guys so much, and I will see you in the next one.